The latest tech.
I'm Alexa. I can answer your questions.
Interviews.
And we are evolving, and we are seeing an amazing opportunity that is happening.
Accessibility.
Accessibility is one of our core values. It's even a part of our mission statement.
This is Double Tap TV.
Welcome to another week and another edition of Double Tap TV. This week, we are prognosticating the future here, not with a groundhog, with a couple guests, talking all things 5G. And if you guys want to get involved, it's feedback at ami.ca. On Twitter, we are at Double Tap Canada with the hashtag AskDoubleTap, and now on Instagram at doubletap.online. Marc, Aflalo, and Stephen Scott with you each and every single week. Stephen, when I say 5G and you think of a more connected future, what excites you about that?
Well, first off, the word prognosticating, or what was it? Procrastinating. Oh, yeah, that one. I think that word excites me more than anything else. No, do you know, it's a really interesting area for me because, you know, I think there are lots of good reasons to be excited about 5G, and I know we're going to talk about that in this episode. But I think, for me, it's about autonomous vehicles. I am so excited about the potential of these vehicles coming to fruition because for blind people, this could be a new mode of mobility, independent travel for blind people. And that can only happen, really, with the infrastructure that is 5G. And I'm very excited about it.
When it comes to autonomous vehicles, I mean, the prospect of a car being summoned to your home, taking you to the groceries, taking you to go pick up something from the hardware store. I mean, the reason 5G makes that possible is because autonomous vehicles need to communicate with infrastructure, right? They need to know what the streetlights are going to be ahead of you. They need to know what cars are around you. The freedom element alone, I cannot imagine what that might be like for someone in your situation right now. I mean, to be able to just summon a vehicle and go somewhere and know that you're going to do it in a safe way. Does security bother you? Does it concern you when you think about it?
Well, interestingly, yeah, I mean, there have been a lot of conversations around the security, not actually of the technology that makes it possible, but, you know, let's think about an autonomous vehicle. Let's say someone decides to stand in front of that autonomous vehicle and then someone stands behind it. How does the car know that it's, you know, that someone's maybe not under attack in that vehicle? And I remember someone getting in touch with the Double Tap Canada show, asking that very question. And it always made me think, you know, yeah, the technology is great until quite literally someone stands in front of it. So, you know, there are questions, there are security concerns, and of course the issue of, you know, driving down a road at, you know, 70 kilometers per hour and all of a sudden your 5G signal cuts out. That's probably quite terrifying. What is the process behind that? How does it work? How does it not fall apart and break and, you know, kill us all? That's what I want to know, Mark. How will it not kill us all? But more importantly, let me ask you, what about you? Why are you excited about 5G?
Oh my God, the list is too long to probably even cover an entire season of this show. On my side, the connected home, a more connected home, a more reliably connected lifestyle, you know, the ability to have instant communication with those around me, that really excites me. And then on the professional side of things, I think about broadcasting. I think about taking this show on the road. Imagine going to different places and being able to broadcast from absolutely anywhere without having to bring a giant 4K production truck with us, you know, to be able to bring a small cell phone or a small modem and connect that to some really compact equipment and be able to take this show on the road and cover things more and bring you guys at home more interesting stories because we can do that from anywhere. Imagine being on a boat, on a aircraft carrier, talking about military technology in the middle of nowhere, but being able to stay connected. Thanks to technology like satellite internet and 5G, that is going to be a reality. The only question is when is that reality going to happen? Because a lot of promises are made each and every single year as we see new iterations of technology being announced, whether it was 3G, Edge, LTE, lots of promises being made. But how long does it take those promises to go from words to reality? Like, are we seeing true 5G technology now? What do you feel in your area? Do you know, when you look down at that new 5G iPhone, have you ever seen it say 5G?
No. Never once. And I don't know when it will happen. I live in a fairly rural area. So, it's interesting to see where it will actually fall. And I do worry that the pandemic has had an impact on the rollout of a lot of this, although granted, a lot of the work has been done outside. Also, we've got to say there's been a lot of fake news flying around about 5G and what its capability is to, control our minds or kill us all or whatever, however you decide to think. It's all nonsense, right? It is nonsense, and it's been proven that way. But it is something that does concern a lot of people about the rollout of it. When will it actually appear? The interesting thing is, of course, the hardware is here. I've got my 5G iPhone mini. I've got my 5G Samsung. So when can I actually start enjoying some of this tech?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think on another episode we'll talk about putting together our tinfoil hats so we can protect ourselves from those extremely harmful rays. But I think that when it comes to the devices, you nailed it bang on there. The hardware is here. There's been a lot of promises made. I've seen a couple areas with 5G, and I've run some speed tests, and I've seen some pretty impressive things. But I think that when it comes to this technology and the way the telecommunications is going, it's probably specific industries that are going to see and reap the benefits of this technology, because the key to this technology is lower latency. That means the speed in which it takes a signal to go from wherever you are right now up to wherever it needs to go in the wireless world and wherever it's landing, whether that's calling up a website, whether that's streaming video, whether that's holding a virtual scalpel across the world and performing a surgery. I think there are industries that are going to benefit and see immediate benefits, and that's why I bring that example up of a surgery, because the medical world is one of these that they keep saying 5G is going to absolutely transform. What other industries do you think might benefit from this kind of low latency, high bandwidth?
Well, there's going to be impacts for all of us on this. And I think on a company level, as I mentioned, companies like Tesla are going to benefit from this with the autonomous side. And I think that's really where the growth market will be. That's where a lot of us will see that. You mentioned health. We will see that in a different way. We'll learn about it through the procedures that happen. I think for most people, it's going to be hit and play on Netflix and getting the video to start a little bit quicker. And that for most people might be enough. But I think what we're excited about, and what essentially we'll be talking about this show, and we've also talked about before, is that the capability here for, especially let's think about mobility for blind people, using the latest technology to get around independently, navigate themselves, having instant information given, and instant being like within a millisecond. If you're relying on AI to help you cross a road, you need to know that AI can keep up and get the information ahead of itself so that, you don't step out on the road in front of the bus. That's the key. You've got to get that information. That's why we don't rely currently on the mobile cellular network for that. So, I think there are lots of industries that will benefit from this. Individuals will certainly benefit from it.
Let's get an expert's opinion, because I think in order to look forward or even to look at the present, we need to look back a bit, see what some of those promises were in the past, how long they took to come to fruition, and what the leap was. Like, was it a big leap when we went from Edge to 3G or from 3G to LTE? You know what, Stephen, let's bring an expert on to kind of dive into the past, talk about the present, and figure out where we're going when it comes to 5G. It is Double Tap TV. He is Stephen Scott. I am Marc Aflalo. We take a quick break and bring on our guest after that.
For more great Double Tap TV content, visit ami.ca/doubletap. This is Double Tap TV.
We are back on Double Tap TV talking all things 5G. Marc Aflalo and Stephen Scott with you. Stephen, let's dive into the history of 5G a bit, and to do that, let's welcome our guest this week. He's the Executive Vice President of Vancouver's Ternium Technology Group, but prior to that, he's been consulting major telecom companies in North America for the better part of a decade and has been designing networks and infrastructure that we rely on today. Sandeep Panesar, thanks for joining us this week on Double Tap TV. Let's talk about mobile tech to begin with and look back a bit. What do you think has been the biggest technological breakthrough or the biggest technological jump that's impacted us in that space today?
So I think the biggest jump was going from 3G to 4G. And the reason for that was for the LTE experience, meaning that we were able to transit data over those 4G networks. Now, it's not the kind of capacities we're talking about in terms of 5G, but it was a massive jump. It it was what gave wireless fat pipe, quote unquote, fat pipe to smartphones, which is really what ushered in the whole rage of iPhones and Samsungs and Android and that entire war. But without having the actual network infrastructure to actually be able to carry that network, none of this would exist. Like, you wouldn't be able to watch TikTok while you're in the washroom, right?
So, thinking about those pipes, as you call them, what would we not be able to do today without them? I mean, we rely so much on wireless technology, not just to watch TikTok videos. I'm thinking more about medical, military even. Where would we be as a people today without them?
We would be where we were, 30 years ago, right? Where everybody was going outside and playing, and parents would be telling their kids, come home when the streetlights come on, as opposed to picking up the cell phone and tracking them and figuring out where they are. So yeah, there's been a huge shift in the way we socially as a people address how we interact with technology or what we use technology to do with. So for instance, this example with the streetlights, right? When I was a kid, I would say, okay, come back when the streetlights turn on, right? It was a thing. The streetlights went on at a certain hour. It wasn't defined by solar panels and photoelectric cells. It was defined by, the city turns on the lights at this time, come home, right? And so it's a same example of the exact same thing. Now it's solar panels or photoelectric cells that are turning the streetlights on, as opposed to someone flipping a switch or a computer flipping a switch. But to the same token, it's the same functions that we are doing. What we're now able to do with these newer technologies is get a little bit deeper, slice a little bit more thinner, and make life, I don't want to say better, but make it more exact. So for those people that want that little piece of finesse that they can actually bring into their lives, like whether it's, I want to track my daughter or my son, or I want to know where, how long it's going to be before my boyfriend or girlfriend shows up, right? This is the technology that we have now. It's not something that was before where you could say, I'm just around the corner, but really you're like a block away. No, you can just send a location pin, right?
Sandeep, internet access is seen by many now around the world. It's actually even classified in some places as an essential service. What goes into developing that infrastructure for something like 5G? I mean, you can't just flip a switch and turn it on, right?
No, it's not something they flip a switch overnight. And that's one of so for instance, if you look at the LTE network or the 4G network, right, it was hard cables, towers, a lot of hard work and physical infrastructure went into it. The interesting thing about 5G, and this is what we do at Ternium or our Ternium Technology Group, is we deliver software-defined networks. And so that's a component of the entire network stack, but doing it all on a software basis. And there's what they call SDN, which is software-defined networks, which are being used to define these 5G cores. So the 5G cores are really what the carriers are looking for to figure out a way to deploy quickly, inexpensively, and be able to manage everything that they're currently doing. And so the idea of 5G is amazing in terms of capacity, bandwidth, latency, delay, that kind of stuff, which means there are a lot of really fine-tuned things that you can do, like healthcare, automotive, automated drones, things like that.
5G is supposed to help connect our rural communities better and help connect our country better. Rural areas have less available internet. They could benefit from, 5G technology because it's hard to physically connect them with wires. So, others who have internet now and aren't at an issue where they're, lacking connectivity, they're happy. They might not be as excited about 5G. So what's really the big deal when it comes to 5G?
It's not being done all hardware. It's being done with software now. And the software component is really what's allowing the 5G networks to accelerate in terms of expansion. Yes, in a rural area, you're going to need to have a tower. But because of the way 5G is defined, and because of the capacity and because of the frequency of signals, it can travel further and deliver more bandwidth. And so because of that, you can actually have quite a bit more distance between the towers. So you don't need as much tower density. It can be less. And then in terms of core infrastructure, in terms of things of doing what we call backhaul in the industry, where the information hits the top of the tower, comes down, and then is sent out over the internet. Now having an infrastructure that's all completely software defined, and to have that layer 3 network that will carry everything for you, that's a massive benefit for the telcos because it's easier for them to deploy, and they can deploy it quicker, which means that at the end of the day, they're going to be able to deploy things quicker if they adopt the newer technologies. And that's what's happening right now.
Obviously, specific industries stand to use 5G more than others. Healthcare, we talked about, for example. The idea of a doctor on the other side of the country performing a life-saving surgery sounds incredible in another part of the country. But aren't there security issues here? You know, a line can't go down when that is happening.
Right, sure. And I agree with you 100%. So, the industry that are going to benefit the most immediately, of course, are going to be telemedicine. It's going to be distance learning, going to be automated machines or autonomous machines, if you will. So whether that's your Tesla, your car, or whether it is a food delivery truck, or whether it's a drone that's dropping off a package, right? That kind of telemetry is going to be very, very important. And the reason that's going to be important is because there still need to be human operators that are watching these things, at least for now. We're not at the point where we can let these things fly by themselves, which means you've got an operations center filled with people that are watching 10, 5, 50, 1,000 drones or whatever going on simultaneously. And their job is to manage what's going on there, whether it's the traffic, the airspace, any of that kind of stuff, where they're transiting. And that's just on the autonomous side. On the healthcare side, you want to be able to have a surgeon who is in a helicopter flying up to, Whitehorse because he's doing a specialized surgery, and having somebody in Montreal, say, for example, actually doing the surgery live while he's watching before he actually gets there.
Sandeep, I hope you're okay to stick around because we're just scraping the surface here with this conversation, but we need to take a quick break. We are in conversation with Sandeep Panesar from Vancouver's Turnium Technology Group, all about 5G. When we come back, let's look ahead and let's try and predict a 5G future. This is Double Tap TV. We're back in just a moment.
Love Double Tap TV? Listen to AMI Audio for Double Tap Canada every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern for news and reviews on everything tech. This is Double Tap TV.
We are talking all things 5G this week on Double Tap TV. Thank you for getting involved. Just a reminder, our email address is feedback@ami.ca. On Twitter, it is @DoubleTapCanada. And if you use the hashtag AskDoubleTap, we always get to your questions. And we're on Instagram now. If you look us up, it's @DoubleTap.online. Marc Aflalo and Stephen Scott with you. We are in conversation with Sandeep Panesar, Executive Vice President at Vancouver's Turnium Technology Group.
For me, Sandeep, 5G means the potential for something huge in my life. And I mentioned it at the top of the show. It's the possibility that I could one day own a car. Now, I know as a blind guy that might sound a bit odd, maybe even a bit ridiculous, but I am in fact talking about autonomous vehicles here, cars that drive themselves. But the question is, what's the reality here? What hurdles lie in the way between me and that possibility at this stage?
So I think it's happening now. I think we're starting. There have been a bunch of false starts. As with anything in technology, there will always be false starts. But those false starts, if we don't have them, it is what we learn from. And so I think that drives the success or the progress of not just socially, but technologically. And it creates that desire to improve. And it really takes just one organization, one company, one group to come together and say, here's the standard that we're going to impose or produce that will be what everyone will drive on. And once you have that standard, then you've got the network. It's already there. You have an ability to ensure that connections and connectivity are always already there. And so then what ends up happening is you can have someone who is blind, quote unquote, go for a drive by themselves, autonomously for themselves, and be self-empowered to be able to go do groceries and things like that. Things like, automated stores and all that stuff that come out of the 5G that allow you to walk in and walk out, grab what you want, be able to do that. It's a completely different world. It's now a tactile world, and yet it's completely accessible to absolutely everyone. And that's the other thing, and you hit the nail right on the head. Like, this 5G will bring, at least in this first stage, immense accessibility. And in terms of time frame and scale, we're not far out. We are very, very close to getting this all done now. I think everybody can smell it and feel it and almost taste it, if you will.
We're talking today about 5G, obviously, but in your position, Sandeep, you are getting to peek behind the curtain of what's coming down the line. What excites you personally?
I'm a tech head, geek, nerd, whatever you want to call it, by birth, I guess, or by birthright, whatever you want. I'm an engineer. I've been doing this for umpteen years, and I'm older than I look. But for me, the big excitement is, what are the possibilities? And the fact that we're generating all of these wonderful possibilities, the excitement is, who's going to create what first? Is it going to be me? Is it going to be someone else? Is it going to be Turnium? Is it going to be another company? Like, this is where it becomes exciting, because we have an opportunity to not just take what it is that we are currently doing, but look at what's happening out there in the industry and potentially even improve lives. And to me, that's the most exciting thing.
Aren't we all just tech heads? At least I can speak for myself and Stephen. Thanks, Sandeep. That is Sandeep Panesar from Vancouver's Turnium Technology Group this week on Double Tap TV. Does 5G seem more like it's here now, Stephen, or do you think it's something that we're still far away from seeing the benefits?
I think we're still a little bit away from it. I think if you live in a major city, you are maybe already reaping some of the benefits, and you will get more benefits as time goes by.
I wonder if we're going to see a time when we don't need those broadband cables anymore, if we really do disconnect ourselves from a physical connection and use 5G or just even wireless technology on absolutely everything. I know that you and I, the way we work, getting a hardline connection is always means reliability. But I think we may be getting to a stage where you can get that reliability. I mean, if they're doing surgeries over it, without needing a physical cable.
Look at Wi-Fi. I mean, just look at Wi-Fi on its own. A couple of years ago, I might have said, no, don't have a Wi-Fi connection to do serious stuff. I'd rather have a hardwired connection. And we've been kind of conditioned to that. And it makes sense, right? A physical cable running from end to end should be stronger than something being sent over the air. But that's not true anymore. My Wi-Fi signal on my MacBook is just as strong, if not in some cases stronger, than I get when I'm hardwired. And take that onto a global scale with 5G connectivity, it's going to be incredible.
Stephen, thank you as always for being by my side. Special thanks to Sandeep Panesar from Turnium Technology Group. And thank you guys at home for getting involved. Feedback at ami.ca. And don't forget, on Twitter, it is at DoubleTapCanada with the hashtag AskDoubleTap. And now on Instagram, it is at DoubleTap.online. On behalf of Sandeep Panesar, Stephen Scott, I am Marc Aflalo. We will speak to you again on our next episode of Double Tap TV.
For more great Double Tap TV content, visit ami.ca/doubletap. Hosted by Marc Aflalo and Stephen Scott. Editing, Will Attar. Production assistants, Wendy Kaufman. Content review, Zachary Aflalo. Social media, Andy Wynn. Segment producer, Sean Priest. Voiceover, Anna Vicino. Integrated Described Video Specialist, Ron Rickford. Coordinating producer, Jennifer Johnson. Director, Production, Kara Nye. Director, Programming, Brian Perdue. VP Content Development and Programming, John Melville. President and CEO, David Arrington. Copyright 2021, Accessible Media, Inc.